Sam's ship had been traveling through deep space when something went wrong. The engines failed, and before he could make a proper landing, the ship was damaged. A small planet with a cold, harsh climate was the only place nearby. Sam had no choice but to crash land there. When he woke up, his ship was nothing more than a pile of broken metal. The cold outside was unbearable. The wind howled through the empty landscape, and snow covered everything in sight. Sam wrapped himself in his survival gear, grabbed his emergency pack, and stepped outside. He had to find shelter quickly. The planet was uninhabited. At least, that's what the sensors told him. But the longer Sam walked, the more the strange silence began to weigh on him. He was used to hearing the hum of the ship, the beeping of equipment. Now, there was nothing but the wind and the crunch of his boots in the snow. After several hours of walking, Sam saw something in the distance, a cave. His heart lifted. It was a sign of safety. He hurried toward it, knowing he couldn't stay out in the cold much longer. As he approached the entrance, he felt the sudden drop in temperature, and the cold seemed to bite right through his layers. He stumbled into the cave, shivering. Inside, it was a little warmer, but not much. Sam could see the dim light from the outside reflecting off the cave walls. As his eyes adjusted to the dark, he noticed a figure sitting near the back of the cave. At first, Sam thought it was just a trick of the light or the shadows. But then the figure moved, and he saw her clearly. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen before. The alien woman had smooth, silver skin that shimmered in the dim light. Her eyes were bright and intelligent, and they glowed with a soft, pale blue hue. She had delicate features with high cheekbones and an elegant jawline. Her dark hair was braided and fell over her shoulder, blending with the shadows. She sat cross-legged, looking calm, as if she had been waiting for him. Sam froze, unsure of what to do. He hadn't expected to find anyone, especially not someone like her. His mind raced. Could she be dangerous? But there was something in her eyes that seemed peaceful, almost curious. The woman spoke first, her voice soft and melodic. "You have come a long way to find shelter, human," she said in perfect English. Her words were clear, but her accent was strange, like a melody with every sentence. Sam raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. "I didn't mean to intrude. My ship crashed, and I just need somewhere to stay until I can figure out what to do." She tilted her head slightly, studying him. "It is cold here. You will not survive for long alone. You are lucky to have found me." Sam swallowed hard. "I'll be fine. I've got survival gear and food." The woman's eyes glowed brighter for a moment. "That will not be enough. You will need more than food to survive this planet." Sam frowned, not sure what she meant. "I don't understand." She stood up gracefully, her movements fluid and purposeful. "The cold here is not like the cold of your world. It will freeze you if you do not keep close warmth. There is only one way to stay warm." Sam felt a sense of unease. What did she mean? Was she going to ask for something in return? He couldn't afford to trust her too easily, but he didn't have much choice. "What do you suggest?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The woman gave a soft smile. "We must share warmth. There is no other choice. There is only one bed in this cave, and you will need it if you wish to survive." Sam blinked, unsure if he had heard her correctly. "Share a bed?" She nodded, unbothered by his surprise. "You are human. You need heat. I am alien, and I need heat as well. This is the only way." Sam felt his face heat up with embarrassment. He had never shared a bed with someone he barely knew, especially not someone from another planet, but she was right. The cold was unbearable, and his survival gear was only so effective. He could feel the chill creeping into his bones already. He hesitated, trying to find another option in his mind, but the woman's calm gaze seemed to weigh on him. "I don't have much choice, do I?" he finally muttered. She shook her head. "No, you do not." Sam didn't know what else to say. He was a soldier, trained for survival, but this was a situation that was outside of anything he had prepared for. But the woman was right. The cold would kill him if he didn't act. Without another word, he set down his pack and moved toward the bed she had mentioned. It wasn't much, just a simple, thick blanket on the ground, but it was warm. As he sat down, he felt the heat of the blankets against his frozen skin. It was better than nothing. The woman sat down beside him, her body close but not touching. "We will survive this night," she said, her voice gentle. "You are safe here for now." Sam nodded slowly, still unsure about everything. Who was she? Why was she here? And what else did she know about this planet that he didn't? These questions would have to wait. Right now, warmth was the only thing that mattered. They sat in silence for a while, both lost in their thoughts. The cold outside raged on, but for now Sam wasn't alone. And maybe that was enough. The night was quiet except for the howling wind outside. Sam lay still on the blanket, trying to relax. The warmth from the blankets felt like a small comfort compared to the cold outside. His eyes kept drifting to Zara, sitting beside him. She was calm, but Sam could feel the tension between them. Neither of them had spoken much since they settled down on the bed. He wasn't used to being so close to another person, especially someone from another world. His training as a soldier had always taught him to stay focused, not to let his emotions get in the way. But here, in this cave on an unknown planet, everything was different. He had never been in a situation like this. Zara's presence was peaceful yet mysterious. Her calm demeanor and strange, glowing eyes made Sam feel like he was in the company of someone far wiser than himself. He wasn't sure what to make of her, but he didn't have time to question it. His survival depended on staying warm, and for now, that meant sharing a bed with Zara. After a few long moments of silence, Zara spoke, her voice soft yet clear. "I know this is uncomfortable for you," she said, not looking at him, "but it is necessary. The cold here is dangerous." Sam blinked, not sure how to respond. He nodded slightly, even though he felt awkward. "I understand," he muttered. She looked at him then, her pale blue eyes shining in the dim light. "You are not like the others I've encountered," she said almost to herself. "What do you mean?" Sam asked, curious despite himself. Zara hesitated before answering. Most humans would have resisted this. They would have refused to share warmth with someone they don't know. "But you do you seem to understand?" Sam's face reddened slightly. "I didn't exactly have a choice." "You said I wouldn't survive without it?" Zara gave a small, understanding smile. "True, but it's not just about survival. It's about trust. You have trusted me to keep you safe in this cold. And I trust you as well." Sam felt a strange warmth in his chest at her words. He hadn't expected such honesty from her. He was used to people being more guarded, more suspicious, especially when it came to strangers, but Zara didn't seem like that. She didn't seem to fear him, even though she must have known he was human. "We don't have to talk about it if you don't want to," Zara continued. "But you are safe here. I will not harm you." Sam was still unsure about how much he could trust her, but her words made him feel a little less on edge. The idea of being safe was something he hadn't felt in a long time. He'd always been on the move, never staying in one place for too long. But this cave, with its warmth and quiet, felt like a moment of peace. He shifted slightly, trying to get more comfortable on the blanket. The warmth from the bed was seeping into his cold body, but his mind was still restless. He had so many questions, things he wanted to know about Zara, about the planet, about what had happened to his ship. But for now, he let the silence fill the space between them. It wasn't uncomfortable anymore. It felt natural. It was as if the cold outside, the crash, the unknown planet, all of it had led him to this moment. Zara turned to face him, her eyes still glowing softly in the dim light. "You must be tired," she said. "You have been through much today. Rest now, Sam. Tomorrow will bring new challenges." Sam didn't know what to say to that. He wasn't sure he could rest. His mind kept racing, but his body was exhausted. He was so used to the adrenaline of being in dangerous situations that it was hard to let go. But as he lay there next to Zara, something in him slowly began to calm down. Maybe it was the warmth of the bed, or maybe it was the quiet reassurance in her voice. Whatever it was, it made him feel safe. For the first time in a long while, Sam let himself close his eyes. He tried to relax, to let go of the worries that had been haunting him since the crash. The howling wind outside faded into the background, and soon Sam was asleep. Zara stayed awake for a while after Sam had fallen asleep. She watched him, her eyes filled with curiosity. She had seen humans before, but never one like him. He was different. There was a quiet strength about him that intrigued her. He didn't seem like the others, those who would fight and resist the unknown, who would refuse help even when they needed it. Sam had been willing to trust her, even in such an uncomfortable situation. She smiled to herself, though she knew he couldn't see it. There was something about him that made her want to protect him, something about the way he held himself that told her he was a survivor. She had lived through many dangers, but Sam was unlike anyone she had ever met. She glanced at the entrance of the cave, watching the snow swirl outside. The planet was cold, unforgiving. But in that moment, the warmth of the cave, the presence of Sam beside her, made her feel like maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. The following morning, Sam woke to the soft sound of the wind outside. The cave. For a moment, he didn't remember where he was. But as his eyes opened, the cold air and the dim light of the cave brought everything back. He was still stranded on this strange planet, but at least he was alive. And not alone, he glanced. Over at Zara, she was still asleep, her silver skin glowing faintly in the dim light. Sam couldn't help but notice how peaceful she looked, despite the harsh environment they were in. He had expected to feel awkward waking up so close to someone he barely knew. But somehow, it didn't feel wrong. It felt natural. Sam slowly sat up, stretching his sore muscles. The blankets were warm, but he knew he couldn't stay in the cave forever. He needed to find a way off the planet, or at least find some shelter that could last longer than a cave. The thought of being stuck here for an indefinite amount of time didn't sit well with him. Zara stirred beside him, and he turned his gaze away, feeling slightly embarrassed. He wasn't sure why, but there was something about her presence that made him want to be careful, like he had to respect her space even though they were sharing a bed for warmth. Sam focused on his emergency pack, which was still by his side, unopened. Zara's voice broke the silence. "You are awake early," she said, her voice still soft, but with a hint of amusement. Sam turned to face her. She was sitting up now, looking at him with those glowing eyes. "I'm used to being up before dawn," Sam replied, trying to sound casual. "Guess I'm not used to staying in one place for too long," Zara nodded slowly. "I understand. My kind is not used to staying in one place either." "We are travelers?" Sam raised an eyebrow. "Travelers? So you've been to other planets?" Zara smiled, though there was a sadness in her expression. "Yes, many planets. But no matter how many I visit, I never feel quite at home anywhere." Sam found himself listening intently. He could hear the loneliness in her voice, and it reminded him of his own life. He had always been moving, never staying in one place for too long. A soldier's life was like that, always preparing for the next mission, the next move. "No roots, no home. Sounds familiar," Sam said quietly. "I get it. I've spent most of my life moving from place to place, always something new, always something I need to do." He paused, looking at the cave entrance where the first light of the day was just starting to break through. "But, I don't know, I think I'm tired of it. I think I just want to rest for once." Zara's gaze softened as she listened. To him, "Perhaps you have found the right place then. Perhaps this place is where you can finally rest." Sam looked at her, surprised by her words. Was she trying to tell him that he could stay here? That he could stop running? It was a strange thought, something he had never considered before. He had always thought that rest meant weakness, that stopping meant giving up. But now, with Zara's calm presence beside him, he wasn't so sure before he could respond. Zara stood up gracefully, moving with the same fluidity he had noticed the night before. She stretched and then looked at him. "The cold is not going away any time soon. We must prepare for the day." Sam nodded and stood up as well. It was time to do something. They couldn't just sit in the cave forever. He grabbed his emergency pack and started to organize his gear. Zara watched him for a moment before she spoke again. "I can teach you how to survive here," she said, her voice steady. "You will need more than survival gear. You will need to understand the land, the plants, the creatures that live here. Sam turned to her, a little surprised. You know all of that? Zara nodded. I have been here longer than you, and I know how to survive. You will learn from me. Sam's heart skipped a beat at the thought. He was a soldier, trained for many things, but surviving on an unknown planet was something he hadn't prepared. FOR. It wasn't just the cold that would kill him, it was the whole environment, the unpredictable nature of everything around him. I'll take all the help I can get, Sam said with a smile, though he still felt uneasy about relying on her. He had always been independent, always believed that he could figure things out on his own. But the reality of this cold, strange world was starting to sink in. He wasn't going to make it without help. Zara handed him a small, strange-looking tool. This is for cutting through the tough plants outside, she explained. They are sharp and they can cut you if you aren't careful. But they are also useful for building shelter or starting a fire. Sam took the tool from her, feeling its weight in his hand. It wasn't like anything he had seen before. It was sleek, almost metallic, and it felt smooth to the touch. He had no idea how to use it, but Zara seemed confident in its usefulness. They walked outside together, Sam following Zara as she led him through the snow-covered terrain. The cold hit him immediately, but it wasn't as bad now that he had a purpose. The wind was biting and the snow crunched under their boots, but Zara moved easily through it, her silver skin blending with the surroundings. For the first time since the crash, Sam felt like he wasn't alone. There was a quiet sense of peace as they worked together, gathering materials and learning from each other. Sam was used to working alone, but with Zara by his side, something about it felt different. It felt ... the days on the planet passed. Slowly, Sam and Zara had learned to work together, each day bringing new lessons about survival. Zara was patient, teaching Sam how to build simple shelters and start fires from the dry plants around the cave. He had never considered himself a great outdoorsman, but Zara's calm guidance made everything feel possible. Their routine had become somewhat predictable. They would gather food, prepare their shelter, and share stories by the fire. Sam had learned more about Zara's past, about her travels and the many planets she had visited. She had seen more of the universe than he ever would, and yet she seemed lonely. She told him that her people had been scattered across the stars, never settling anywhere for too long. Zara was different from Sam in many ways, yet he felt a connection with her that he had never felt before. One afternoon as they ventured further from the cave to explore new areas for supplies, Sam noticed the atmosphere had changed. The sky, usually clear, was now thick with dark clouds. The wind had picked up, and a strange stillness seemed to hang in the air. Zara, sensing the change, stopped walking. "We should go back," she said, her voice serious. "The weather here can be unpredictable. It's not safe to be too far from shelter when a storm is coming." Sam nodded in agreement. He trusted her instincts, even if he didn't fully understand the planet's dangers. The last thing he wanted was to be caught in a storm without the warmth of their cave to protect them. As they turned to head back to the cave, the ground beneath them suddenly trembled. Sam's heart skipped a beat. It wasn't the storm. This was something else. The vibration grew stronger, and then, from the trees ahead, a massive creature emerged. It was unlike anything Sam had ever seen. It stood on 4 legs, its body covered in thick, armored scales that seemed to shimmer with an unnatural light. Its eyes glowed red, and its mouth was filled with rows of sharp teeth. The creature moved with surprising speed despite its size. Sam instinctively stepped in front of Zara, his hand reaching for the weapon he had strapped to his side. Zara's voice was calm, but there was a sense of urgency in it. "Stay back. This is a guardian of the forest. It will not stop until it has attacked." Sam had heard of predators on other planets, but nothing like this. His weapon was a basic sidearm, not meant for something this large and dangerous. He glanced over at Zara, who was standing still, her eyes focused on the creature. "Do you know how to fight it?" Sam asked. His voice tensed. Zara shook her head. "It is not about fighting. It is about surviving. We must outsmart it." Sam felt a surge of panic but forced himself to stay calm. He had been in dangerous situations before, but this was different. This creature was faster, stronger, and far more dangerous than anything he had faced. "Do you have a plan?" Sam asked. Zara nodded slightly, her eyes narrowing as she studied the creature. "Follow my lead, trust me." Without warning, Zara moved quickly, darting to the side. Sam watched as she picked up a large rock and hurled it at the creature. The rock hit the creature's thick hide with a loud thud, but it didn't seem to do any damage. Instead, the creature turned, its red eyes locking onto Zara. Sam's heart raced. He knew that the creature would now focus on her. He didn't think, he just acted. He grabbed another rock from the ground and threw it in the opposite direction, hoping to distract the creature. The plan worked. The creature's attention shifted for just a moment. "Now, run!" Zara shouted. Sam didn't hesitate. He turned and sprinted back toward the cave, with Zara close behind him. The creature was fast, but they had a head start. Sam pushed himself harder, knowing that if they didn't make it back to the cave, they would be dead. They ran through the dense trees, weaving between the trunks as fast as they could. Sam could hear the creature's heavy footsteps behind them, getting closer with every second. Zara was faster than Sam, but she stayed close, her focus never wavering. Just as they neared the cave, the creature let out a deafening roar. Sam's heart pounded in his chest. He pushed himself harder, adrenaline surging through his body. They reached the cave's entrance, and Sam dove inside. Pulling Zara in after him, the creature stopped at the entrance of the cave, its massive form filling the opening. It growled, but it didn't enter. Instead, it turned and disappeared into the forest, its red eyes fading into the distance. Sam and Zara sat down inside the cave, breathing heavily, their bodies shaking from the close call. Sam's hands were still trembling from the adrenaline. He had never been so close to death. Zara looked at him, her expression unreadable. "That was too close," she said softly. "But we survived together?" Sam nodded, still trying to catch his breath. "I didn't think we were going to make it." Zara smiled faintly. "That is why we must always stay alert. On this planet, nothing is ever as it seems." Sam looked at her, his heart still racing. He had learned something important today. It wasn't just about surviving the cold or finding shelter. It was about trusting each other when it mattered most. For the first time since his crash, Sam felt like he wasn't alone. He had someone who understood the dangers of this planet, someone who knew how to survive. And for some reason that made everything feel a little less scary. The days after their close encounter with the forest guardian felt different. There was an unspoken change in the air between Sam and Zara. They had survived something dangerous together, and it had deepened their bond in ways neither of them fully understood. Sam could feel it every time he looked at her. The way she moved, with quiet confidence, how she knew the planet so well, and how she seemed to always know what to do next. There was something calming about her presence. In the chaos of being stranded, she was like a steady anchor. That evening, as they sat by the fire, Sam found himself thinking more and more about her. Zara didn't seem to mind the quiet, but for Sam, it felt strange to just sit there. He was used to constant movement, always working on something or figuring out the next step. But here, on this alien planet, with the wind howling outside and the fire crackling between them, the silence felt comfortable. Zara was focused on the fire, poking at the logs to keep it burning. The flickering light cast shadows on her face, highlighting her features. Sam watched her for a long moment, feeling something stir inside him that he couldn't explain. "Zara," Sam said suddenly, his voice breaking the silence. She looked up at him, her bright eyes catching the firelight. "Yes?" Sam hesitated. "I've been thinking about everything. About this planet, the crash, and you." Zara raised an eyebrow, but didn't interrupt. She waited for him to continue. "I don't know how to say it," Sam continued. "But before I crashed here, I was always moving. Always jumping from mission to mission, never really stopping. I didn't even realize how lonely I was until now." Zara's expression softened. She didn't say anything at first, just nodded slowly as if she understood. She had seen loneliness in many forms throughout her travels, so she understood what Sam meant. It wasn't always about being alone in a physical sense. It was more about being disconnected, about never truly sharing a moment with someone else. "You're not alone anymore," Zara said quietly. "Not here, not with me." Sam met her gaze, and for the first time, he didn't feel like an outsider on this planet. Zara's words, simple as they were, gave him a sense of peace that he hadn't felt in a long time. "I know," Sam replied, softly, "but it's more than that. I feel like... I don't know how to explain it, but being here with you, it feels different. I don't want to go back to the way things were. I don't want to just move from place to place anymore." Zara studied him for a long time. Her gaze seemed to see more than just the surface of things. Sam wasn't sure if she understood everything he was saying, but her silence made him feel understood in a way he hadn't expected. "You're not the only one who's tired of moving," Zara said, her voice quieter than before. "I've traveled across many planets, I've seen more worlds than I can count. But I've never stayed anywhere long enough to truly feel like I belonged." Sam felt a pang in his chest. That's how I've always felt, like I was always on the outside. But now, I don't know. I think I've found something here, with you." Zara didn't respond right away. Instead, she looked into the fire, her expression thoughtful. Sam wasn't sure what she was thinking, but the way she paused made him feel like she was processing his words deeply. After a long moment, she turned to him again. "It's not just about staying in one place," she said. "It's about who you're with and whether or not you trust them." Sam's heart skipped a beat. He had never been good at trusting others, always keeping his distance, even from those who had helped him in the past. But now with Zara, he felt a connection he hadn't expected. "I trust you," Sam said quietly. Zara's eyes met his, and for a brief moment it felt like time had stopped. It wasn't just the trust it was something deeper, something that neither of them could name. But it was there, in the way their eyes locked. In the silence that stretched between them, the fire crackled again, breaking the moment. Zara smiled softly. "You are not as alone as you think, Sam, but we both have much to learn about this planet and about each other. We will have to rely on each other if we are to survive." Sam nodded, his heart still racing from the moment. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I feel like I'm ready to face it. As long as I'm not facing it alone." Zara's smile grew a little wider, though it was still soft. "You won't be alone." They sat in silence again, but this time it didn't feel heavy or awkward. It was a comfortable quiet, filled with the understanding that they had both found something unexpected here. On this strange planet, with its dangers and its mysteries, they had found each other. And for the first time in a long time, Sam felt like maybe, just maybe, he had found something worth staying for. The next few days passed uneventfully. Sam and Zara had fallen into a rhythm, each day bringing them closer together. Zara taught Sam more about the planet's strange ecosystem, and Sam taught Zara about Earth and its many cultures. They shared stories, their voices becoming more comfortable with each other. The ice between them was melting, and with every passing hour, they learned to trust each other more. But as the days went by, Sam began to notice something troubling. The weather seemed to be getting worse. The storms had become more frequent, and the cold was seeping deeper into the cave. Sam found it harder to stay warm even with the fire burning brightly. He could see the same signs of discomfort in Zara, though she didn't show it outwardly. She was always calm, but Sam could tell something was bothering her. One afternoon, as they were gathering supplies, Zara stopped suddenly. Sam looked at her, concerned. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice filled with worry. Zara was staring at the horizon, her expression serious. "Something is coming," she said quietly. "I can feel it." Sam turned to follow her gaze, but he saw nothing out of the ordinary. The sky was dark with clouds, but that wasn't unusual on this planet. He couldn't see anything that might be a threat. "What do you mean? A storm?" Zara shook her head. "No, this is not a storm. It's something worse. Something I haven't seen in a long time." Before Sam could ask any more questions, Zara's expression changed. She grabbed his arm and pulled him down behind a large rock. Sam's heart started to race. Whatever was coming, it was close. "Stay low," she whispered urgently. "Do not make a sound." Sam obeyed without hesitation. He didn't know what to expect, but Zara's warning was enough to make him take cover. They crouched behind the rock, watching the landscape carefully. The wind howled around them, but the air felt thick with tension. Then, out of nowhere, Sam heard the unmistakable sound of something moving, large, heavy footsteps shaking the ground. His eyes widened as he tried to see through the heavy clouds of dust. Slowly, the outline of something massive appeared in the distance. Zara's grip tightened on his arm. "It's here," she said softly, her voice barely audible. Sam couldn't make out the details yet, but he could see the creature's shape, a hulking figure, moving slowly but purposefully toward them. It was massive, much larger than anything Sam had encountered before. Its body was covered in dark, armored scales that reflected the dim light of the overcast sky. "What is it?" Sam asked, his voice barely a whisper. Zara's face was grim. "It is called a Cormac, a hunter of this planet. It has no fear, no weakness. It is relentless, and it is drawn to us." Sam felt a cold chill run down his spine. A creature like that was not something to fight lightly. He thought of their weapons, his sidearm and Zara's strange tools. They were no match for this thing. The Cormac moved closer, and Sam could feel the ground vibrating beneath his feet. "What do we do?" Sam asked urgently. He wanted to act, to do something, but he didn't know where to start. Zara's expression remained calm, though Sam could see the seriousness in her eyes. "We stay hidden. We wait for it to pass." Sam didn't like the sound of that. He had never been one to hide, especially when it came to a threat. But he could see the fear in Zara's eyes, something he hadn't seen before. She was afraid of this creature, and he knew that meant they were in real danger. They waited in silence, Sam's heart racing as the Cormac drew closer. The creature's large, glowing eyes scanned the area, searching for any signs of movement. It moved slowly, deliberately, its massive body shifting in the wind. Sam held his breath, trying not to make a sound, his entire body tensed with fear. Zara's eyes never left the creature. She was focused, every muscle in her body tight with anticipation. Sam could hear the Cormac's breathing, now deep, slow. And steady. It was close. Too close. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the Cormac stopped in front of the rock they were hiding behind. Sam's heart seemed to stop beating as the creature sniffed the air, its nostrils flaring. It was so close that Sam could feel the heat of its breath. He held his breath, praying that it wouldn't hear his heartbeat or smell the fear that he could feel pulsing through his body. For what felt like forever, the Cormac stood there, its eyes scanning the landscape. Then slowly it turned and began to walk away. Sam exhaled sharply, relieved. Zara didn't move, keeping her eyes on the creature as it disappeared into the distance. After a few more tense moments, Zara slowly let go of Sam's arm. "It's gone," she whispered. For now, Sam couldn't believe it. They had been so close to being discovered, to being killed. He could still feel the pounding of his heart in his chest. Zara stood up slowly, her eyes still scanning the horizon. "That was too close," she said, "but we survived." Sam nodded, though he didn't feel much like celebrating. The Cormac had been terrifying, and it had nearly found them. The reality of the dangers on this planet was becoming clear to him. They couldn't stay complacent. They needed to be prepared for whatever else might come their way. Zara turned. To him, her expression serious. "We need to move quickly. The Cormac may return, and we cannot afford to be caught again." Sam didn't hesitate. He grabbed his gear and followed Zara, knowing that their survival depended on staying one step ahead of the dangers this planet had to offer. The days following their encounter with the Cormac felt heavy. Sam and Zara had taken every precaution to avoid danger, but the truth was clear. Survival on this planet was unpredictable. Sam had never been in a place where the risks were so high, where every step could bring him face to face with a creature or a storm that could end his life. Yet, despite the dangers, he found himself reluctant to leave. He wasn't sure why. Maybe it was the strange connection he felt with Zara, or maybe it was the fact that, for the first time in years, he felt like he belonged somewhere. They had found a safe spot deeper in the cave, away from the entrance. The walls provided a natural shield from the biting cold and the outside world, and Sam had begun to appreciate the shelter more and more. Even though he knew he couldn't stay here forever, the cave had become more than just a temporary refuge. It was a place where he felt some peace, and it was a place where he and Zara had begun to truly work together. But the thought of staying here forever was still a difficult one for Sam. The reality of their situation wasn't lost on him. They needed a way off this planet, and quickly. Sam's ship was beyond repair, and no matter how much he wished it weren't true, they were stranded here. Zara had been quiet lately, and Sam could tell that something was weighing on her mind. She wasn't the type to show much emotion, but he could see the flicker of worry in her eyes. It was a rare thing for her, and Sam couldn't ignore it. He needed to know what she was thinking. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Sam decided to speak up. The crackling of the fire was the only sound in the cave. "Zara, what's been on your mind lately?" he asked, his voice quiet but firm. Zara looked at him, her eyes thoughtful. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked into the flames for a long moment, almost as if she were trying to find the right words. Sam waited patiently. He had learned that Zara needed her space to think, but when she did speak, it was always meaningful. Finally, she spoke, her voice low and calm. "I've been thinking about leaving this planet." Sam blinked, not expecting her to say that. "Leaving? But we can't just leave. We don't even have a ship." Zara nodded slowly. "I know. But there are others like me. My people, they have ships. They have the technology to leave this planet. If I can find a way to contact them, I could bring help." Sam felt a glimmer of hope at her words. For a moment, it seemed like a solution. If she could contact her people, they could be saved. They wouldn't be stuck here anymore. But then, something in Zara's voice made him hesitate. "Why haven't you tried already?" he asked, his tone a little sharper than he intended. Zara didn't seem offended. She simply looked at him, her gaze unwavering. "I'm not sure I want to go back. I've been away from my people for so long, and I don't know if they would even accept me. I've spent years traveling alone, Sam. I don't know if I can go back to that life." Sam's heart ached as he listened to her. He could feel the pain in her voice, the loneliness that had driven her to leave her people behind. He understood, maybe better than anyone. They had both been running, both had been searching for something they couldn't find. "Zara, you're not alone anymore," Sam said softly. "I don't know what will happen, but we're in this together. Whatever you decide, I'll be here." Zara's expression softened, but she didn't reply immediately. She looked at him for a long time, and Sam could see the conflict in her eyes. He knew she wanted to go home, but something was holding her back, something deep inside her. Finally, she spoke again. "I don't know what's best anymore. I thought I did. I thought leaving my people behind would bring me peace, but now, I don't know. You're right, Sam. I'm not alone anymore, but going back, it would mean going back to a life I'm not sure I can live." Sam understood. He knew what it was like to have something you once thought you wanted, only to find that it wasn't the answer. They were both searching for something, a place to belong, a reason to stay. But maybe, just maybe, the answer wasn't in going back to the past? He leaned forward slightly, his voice quiet. "You don't have to decide now. We don't have to make that choice today. All I know is that we've got each other. We can figure this out together." Zara smiled faintly, a small but genuine smile. "Thank you, Sam. I didn't think I could trust anyone again. But you've made me realize that maybe, just maybe, I'm not as alone as I thought." Sam smiled back, a sense of warmth filling his chest. For the first time since the crash, he didn't feel the weight of isolation. Maybe they didn't have all the answers, but they had each other. And that was something more than he had ever expected to find. Dot as the fire crackled between them. They sat in comfortable silence, both lost in their thoughts. Sam knew that the decision about their future wasn't simple. There was still much to be done. But in that moment, he didn't need to have all the answers. All he needed was the quiet understanding between him and Zara. Whatever happened next, they would face it together.